All right, guys, welcome to tonight's charting session. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. It is Thursday, December 21st. So today we're going to be, this is kind of the schedule. Tonight we're going to be doing a little bit something different. We're going to go over the trades that we took today, what I did right, what I did wrong. Again, today was one of those days, made a little bit of a mistake, was up 2K on the day, ended the day down $800. Again, small loss on the day, but if I'm up 2,000 and end up down 800, I did something wrong, and I definitely did. So we're going to go over those mistakes today, what I learned from them, and then, of course, the setups that we took, what was right, what was wrong, and then, of course, what we're looking at going into tomorrow as well. And then at the end, we're going to be bringing on some of our members and talking about some problems they might have been struggling with or some questions they might have, and just asking of advice or just anything in general if you guys want to, just talk about anything trading related. So let's jump in. So going into the morning, I had a pretty loose bias. I was more bullish going into the open, but I wasn't too disregarded of the possible short opportunity. Looking at NQ, I did keep in mind that we did have an SMT. Looking at the daily NQ and ES, you can notice NQ ended up, oh, this is not NQ, that's ES. There we go. NQ ended up, or ES, sorry, ended up selling back off into the daily fair value gap. Sell side ended up getting taken, and we had an SMT at the lows. Going into the morning, I was pretty bullish, expecting us to go back to OTE of this range, possibly the breaker up into this area here. But I wasn't really expecting us to sort of, when we normally have a massive imbalance like this, we won't really normally go up into this imbalance like here and then sell off. Most of the time, we'll at least go back to OTE of this range and kind of slowly work our way up in a bullish trend before potentially selling back off. So going into the open, I had a more bullish bias, but what I was more bearish about is the fact that we had this pump in the morning, and we were forming a really nice sell side level. So going into the morning, the bias I was looking to see is to sell off towards sell side, but I was looking to see if we were going to respect the bullish imbalances up here to possibly have one last manipulation move before going back lower. This line that I had drawn is the 4-hour order block from here that I was looking to see us get respected or get rejected from. So going into the open, the first trade I took was a long that I ended up getting stopped out on. So the first long was right here. We ended up failing to really go lower, at least from, well, technically we didn't, but at the time I was expecting this fair value gap to get ran through. So we ended up coming back down at the open, tapping into this 5-minute fair value gap. Again, at this point in time, I'm looking for us to go to sell side, but once this 5-minute fair value gap started to get ran through, again, it actually ended up selling all the way back off and closing below and actually held this imbalance. But at the time, here, I was expecting to want to see this get ran through to go sweep these highs one last time before possibly selling off. So the trade that I took here was actually in this 15-second fair value gap. Once this 5-minute ended up getting ran through, we ended up coming back down. I took a small long, ended up getting stopped out. Now, looking back, this trade, I'm not super happy with this trade, and we'll talk about why. Number one, it goes against my already existing bias of wanting to see this become sell side. Number two, I didn't recognize the Judas swing in the morning. We actually ended up coming up, sweeping the internal level in this range, and then selling right back off. I didn't realize that we actually swept this internal high, which then, again, confirmed this was the morning Judas swing, having the morning manipulation to then go back towards the lows. Another thing that I failed to recognize as well is the 5-minute. I expected this to close above just because we had so much displacement, but we ended up actually hanging on to the 5-minute, and we never ended up getting the close above the 5-minute fair value gap. So looking back, again, what should I have done differently here? Well, if I was bullish biased and I wanted to take a long here, the best thing that I should have done is, number one, wait for the 5-minute fair value gap to get open, or the next 5-minute candle to open up and actually hold above the imbalance. But also on the smaller time frames, when I was looking to take it in this 15-second fair value gap, I should have probably waited for displacement back up, because most of the time when we come up and we sell at this high, after sweeping this this buy side level and then selling back off in the range, I don't know if the drawn liquidity becomes sell side or we want to hold this imbalance before possibly coming higher, because this high, if this is not here, I then take this as, break a structure to the upside after failing to go lower. We're running the 5-minute imbalance. I would want to see displacement higher to then possibly go hunt buy side before then going to the external draw, right? I did not consider this to be, in my eyes, when I was watching this, I didn't see this as manipulation at the time. Looking back, it's a lot more clear, but at the time, I failed to recognize this being the manipulation move because I wanted to see more of the external high here get taken instead of the internal. Because we were on a smaller time frame like the 1 minute, it just made more sense for me to have that one last push to most likely go take this high before going lower, but that wasn't the case. So looking back, what I should have done is waited for that 15-second displacement up and then possibly taken a long, and then I could have put my stop down here. Again, small loss. I'm not really upset with it. I'm just more upset that, again, this is a trade that is not a high-quality setup that I most of the time shouldn't have taken, right? But again, we look at it, journal it, off the board, right? Fix it, and we go from there. So this was the first trade that I took. Not really happy with it, but that's the first loss that we ended up taking. And then from there, we ended up selling back off. In the morning, we actually ended up just consolidating in this range. I was looking to take shorts here, but I never ended up getting the entry that I wanted to. We came back up to this 1 minute fair value gap just to stop out these traders. We had a 1 minute fair value gap. We had this high. Again, failing to really have displacement of the lows, but we ended up coming back up, stopping out all the traders in the recent high. Again, liquidity resting inside the imbalance, displacement back lower. I was looking for us to pull back to some sort of imbalance, but we never ended up doing so. We ended up just selling, or this was the imbalance here. I missed my entry here, and then we ended up selling off to the new lows. There was a possible little scalp opportunity right there. But one thing I want you guys to keep in mind about this price action is notice what time that we actually started to get the move lower. So on the 5 minute, we ended up continuing to reject this, but pretty much the first 30 minutes of the morning, we continue to just chop in this range. But if we look at the macro, right when the macro ended up opening up, this was your silver bullet trade today. Actually, no, it wasn't actually. 9:55. Actually, what time did we tap this? This was your silver bullet, actually. I was looking to take shorts here, but never got tapped. So again, right when macro ends up opening, we start getting the first little sign of volatility, starting to break to the downside. We fail to come back to this fair value gap. This is where I was initially looking to take shorts to go lower, never got tapped. And then from here, I was a little bit more afraid to take shorts at the bottom of this range because I would wanted to see us come back higher. So I didn't take the short here either. But there was possibly an opportunity here. Once we ended up getting displacement below, there was possible another short opportunity to then see lower. And then we ended up selling all the way off towards that sell side level. And then from there, again, not looking to take any sort of shorts once this sell side level is taken. Why? I'm watching to see the reaction, right? We have a 1 hour fair value gap here. Again, liquidity nestled in. I'm still expecting us to possibly hold this bullish action, and I'm expecting this to possibly just be a liquidity sweep before bouncing back higher. So going into the day, this was actually the best thing that I was watching to see. My bias in the morning when I sent out my pre-market is I was looking to see sell side get swept, hold this imbalance before possibly seeing a buy model to the upside, and that's actually what we ended up getting today. So going to the next trade, I took on ES. ES 1 hour looked to be super bullish. Let me replay here. At this point in time, when we were looking at the 1 hour, we ended up coming back up into this 1 hour, or back down into the 1 hour fair value gap. We had an order block from previously here. This looked super bullish in my eyes. I was expecting us to continue to hold the 1 hour after forming an SMT, because notice NQ ended up coming down, sweeping sell side here, forming an SMT, while ES never ended up taking that low, right? So we had bullish SMT here, bouncing off the order block, right? There's just a lot of confluence for us to bounce here. We have a 1 hour order block, or we have a 1 hour fair value gap, an order block, an SMT at the lows. So at this point in time, I was looking to see us start to have some more possible move back towards the upside. So the long that I took here on ES was right here. Once we ended up coming back down, holding the order block, I was looking to see if we could get displacement to the upside to possibly target internal buy side here and then external buy side up here. We ended up getting a nice move up, really, really clean displacement. Again, this to me was an A+ setup. This, in my opinion, was probably the most confident setup that I've seen in the last month. This is probably the first actual A+ setup that I've seen in the last month, at least for me, that I've felt really confident in. Again, rejection of a bigger time frame imbalance. Sell side's been swept. We have an SMT at the lows. We get displacement at the upside. We have a fair value gap. So we ended up pulling back to the fair value gap, getting tapped in long, and then a beautiful, nice push up. Ended up taking most of my contracts off here, and then the rest ended up getting stopped at break even. We ended up selling right back down. So Now we're getting into the point where I started to make a mistake. At this point in time, I'm up on the day, and I ended up making this mistake. We ended up coming back, waiting, and at this point in time, at the 15-minute, I'm actually focused on this 15-minute fair value gap. The 15-minute is continuing to hold, and this, to me, at this point in time, looks super bullish. I'm expecting us to continue higher here. I'm expecting this to happen. I want to see a breakout to the upsides, and the 15-minute looked super bullish. In my mind, the mistake that I made here is I was not focused on the internal action. I was focused on the 15-minute. And I wasn't also focused on what had just previously happened. We just came up, swept the internal buy side, sold all the way back down. At this point in time, I'm expecting and wanting to see us move up higher. And I ended up taking a just terrible entry, which was right here. Absolute terrible entry. And the problem with this entry is there's no entry model here. The reason I took this trade, again, looking back, like I'm trying to feel like what I was thinking in this moment, is I was more focused on the 15-minute being bullish. I was trying to trade the 15-minute, but this trade here, I'm not positioning myself accordingly if I'm trading the 15-minute chart. If I'm trading the 15-minute, my stop has to be at this low, right? But I'm just too dialed in here, and I was way too trigger happy. I sort of, again, I to be honest, I had a little bit of FOMO here, which I haven't, had in a very long time. Haven't made, I know this is normally not really a problem of mine of being that trigger happy, but I think this is one of those trades where I just had that idea, and I kind of was too married to that idea, and I pressed the button without, really double thinking it or really reflecting on what the idea even was in the first place. And by the time that I entered, it already flipped against me, and I was like, I should not have taken this trade. And the people that were in the live probably recognized that. Right when I took this, I was like, I was like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. And then I ended up getting stopped out, right? And then I ended up, giving back some of the profits that I made previously. So now at this point in time, after taking the loss in the morning, after having this win, again, keep in mind, I got stopped out on half my contracts here. And then I took this loss. So at this point in time, I'm at pretty much break even. I'm up maybe $100 on the day, $200, right? So at this point in time, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a point in time I should probably step away. There's not really much that I'm liking here. There's really nothing that I should, if I'm up on the day and I bring it back, this action is kind of all over the place. I'm not feeling comfortable anymore. I've made the mistake. Just keep it there. Because most of the time, people are going to end up sticking around, especially when you are up a lot on the day and then you bring it back down. You do not want to end the day below the initial number that you were up on the day, right? Just psychologically, a lot of the times, traders will end up blowing up their accounts because they're trying to get back to whatever their P&L was earlier in the morning, right? You can't think like that. You have to be able to sit down and say, this was the mistake I made. I have to be able to walk away here. I have to step away, or else I'm going to just continue to dig the hole deeper for myself. You can't do that. So then this was the last trade that I took, the final opportunity. I ended up taking one last long here. Again, looking back, this was not terrible, actually. This was not a bad long. I was mostly looking to see these equal highs here. And the reason for this bias was we came back down, swept these equal lows, we got displacement up, and we had equal highs. So looking back, this was actually not that bad of a long. So I'm not super upset with this. I did trade lower size as well, but it was more at the end of the day, it was probably just something and that I should have stepped away after taking that loss, right? But we had equal lows upswept. Again, my bias on the 15-minute was still bullish as well. Consolidating, we get displacement to the upside, the first fair value gap. I ended up taking a long, and then this just ended up getting ran through to the downside. And I actually want to look back because there might have actually been an SMT here, which I didn't notice at the time, that might have caused this loss here. We'll see. Did we take that? No, we didn't take that high. So we didn't even have an SMT here. Again, but we ended up selling off and then just sort of consolidating here before then finally coming back to go take that high. But again, we ended up just consolidating. Lunch hour, had one more move lower, and then continued to sell later before having the move up in the PM. So those were the trades that I took today. 4 trades. Again, 1 win, 3 losses. Again, only down $800 on the day, though. But again, I'm not happy with it. Even though I'm down, I have to reflect and say, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What I did right, my risk was not terrible. Still could have been better. And there was definitely at least 2 of those trades that I shouldn't have probably not taken, right? Any questions on those so far? I have a question on that second trade. Usually you look for displacement back into the range. Would that first push up off the SMT be considered enough displacement? I was waiting for more of a move up to take a higher time frame for value gap and look for an entry model based off of that. Is that a mistake or too picky? So the reason I take this first fair value gap here is because the SMT is giving me extra added confluence. Once this is enough for me to enter back in this because I know we're at least going to this high most likely. After ES, again, keep in mind too, ES is in a bigger time frame imbalance and Q is in a bigger time frame imbalance. When we're at this and when we're at the lows, I'm focused on getting this early entry because I know most of the time, once we have an SMT at the lows, once we're about rebalancing to a bigger time frame imbalance, a lot of the times it's going to be quick to balance back up. We're going to bounce quickly off of the SMT and off of the bigger time frame imbalance. Have a go on VC. Sleep tight, brother. I feel like I look for displacement back into the range if I don't have a ton of other confluence. I felt confident with this with the limit order in the middle of the fair value gap because there was like 6 other confluences, not acting like a pro, just wanted to get my input. Love it, brother. Exactly. Exactly. This was one of those trades too where you had just a lot of confluence. There was just a lot of things in our favor. SMT, both ES and NQ were in a bigger time frame for value gap. We were in a, if you zoom out even more, we're still bullish, right? Like we're still rebalancing higher. We just had a massive move lower trying to fill this whole imbalance where we want to go back to OTE of the range, right? Like there's just a lot of confluence with this setup that I knew that we were most likely going to bounce pretty quickly. Rams or Saints tonight? Probably Saints. I'm struggling with exiting bad trades until the entire range low or high gets taken on the 15 even or the 1 hour even. If I'm in on the 5 minute or 1 minute, it crushes all my gains when I'm wrong. Wait, I'm struggling with exiting bad trades until the entire range low or high gets taken on the crushes all my gains when I'm wrong. So are you just talking about the risk? If it's crushing your games when you're wrong, your risk to reward must be terrible then. It's got to be a risk to reward problem. Your RR is not set up. You're not positioning yourself accordingly. On the first trade on ES during live stream, you were talking about not letting greed to blind you and taking off positions and just interested to see how you deal with leaving money on the table. On the first ES trade, yeah, okay. Like I said, during the live today, we were in longs. I said, this looks like we want to go to the high, but I will take these contracts off here. When we're at this point in time, when we're having this move up, this looks like we want to go towards the external high. But if I'm focused on building good, this is the difference between being focused on building good habits and being focused on making money. The person who is focused on making money gets greedy and lets their contracts try to run all the way to this high without scaling anything here, and then they ended up getting stopped all the way at break even. The person who's focused on building good habits scales here, most of their contracts, and they get stopped at break even, making money on the trade. You cannot be focused on making money. You have to be focused on what the market is telling you should do, okay? I have to take something off here. Why? Because this is the internal liquidity. We can come up here. which we actually ended up forming an SMT here as well. We come up, sweep the high internal before selling back off. I am not sure, even if I think that it's going to this high, there is still a possibility that we just come take the internal and sell back off. You have to focus on building good habits, not making money. When you are in a trade, you have to take what the market is giving you. Don't be greedy. Do you feel like trading the 15-second time frame was a bit of a game changer, even for entries? Maybe I've just been more disciplined lately, or your education has been more patient for A+ setups, but lately I've been crushing it using the 15-second, finding internal models and entries and exits. Yeah, dude, again, keep backtesting it, brother. The 15-second is a very powerful strategy if you know how to use it and you can recognize it during the... Again, the thing with the 15-second is knowing when and when not to use it. There's times when, again, when you have a bigger external bias and you get to then zoom into the 15-second to find the best entries and find the best models, you're going to see a lot of success with it, right? So continue to backtest it, continue to journal it, and continue to build conviction with it. All right, let's bring some people on. Who wants to come on? Okay, I want everybody, if you do want to come on and talk, just give me like a brief thing of what you want to talk about, like a problem. Say, hey, this is my, or like say, Justin, I have a problem about this and I want to explain it. Or anything, just anything in general. We'll see. Scaled in this trade at the low to the order flow and everything lining up to the POC. Got the perfect entry, but didn't scale at the first high, then got stopped all the way break even. Again, it happens, bro. It happens. Gotta learn from it. Took this entry, but instead of smaller stop, I made my stop below the entire range. See, this, I'm honestly fine. I probably, that was the same thesis that I had when I was looking to take a long. One thing I wasn't aware of, though, and one thing that I shouldn't have taken along, is notice on the 15-minute. When I think I was just too zoomed in here on the 5-minute trying to take a long here, because on the 15-minute, one thing that I've noticed is actually, everybody think about this. One thing that I've noticed and what I've journaled is the times when I feel like I'm too early in the model. Like here, again, too early in the market maker buy model, but eventually we ended up getting it here. How do you know that this was not the market maker buy model, but this was the market maker buy model? What is the difference in price that happened here before, other than the other one? Other than here. Why was this too early? And I've started to backtest this a lot. No, sell side was taken on both, because sell side's taken here too. So why didn't we go back towards buy side here? The imbalance was never ran through. The bearish imbalance never got ran through. When we ended up selling off, we ended up forming the first ever 15-minute fair value gap today. First ever 15-minute fair value gap. What sparks the buy model? Once this gets ran through. Right when this gets ran through, taps in it as an inverse, sparks the buy model. Here, even if I zoom into the 5-minute, nothing here. Love to come on, but Rams in the red zone. I don't want to scream on the live randomly. All right, let's get Rob on. We can invite Rob on here. Let me. How do I bring invite to speak? All right, there you go, Rob. You can come on, Rob. What's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
Good. How are you? What you want to talk about, bro?
Doing great. All right, so my biggest, I guess, my biggest like problem I think is like fair value gaps and deciding which ones to use and which not to. So like for instance, like NQ today at what time is this? 8:25 had two like fair value gaps on the 5-minute, and on the 15 was one big one. Which one do you decide to use?
Okay.
For, like
8:25. Are you talking about pre-market or here?
Yeah.
So you're wait. So this one,
Or my bad. Our times are a little different. 8:30. My bad.
8:30 my time.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
big one right here, and then this
Yeah,
one.
it's like,
Okay, so these two
would
ones.
you use that top one?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Okay, the thing with fair value gaps is okay. The first thing I'm going to say too is after this conversation, I have a whole video just based off of understanding fair value gaps in price and like which ones to trade, which ones not. The first thing with both of these fair value gaps is you do not just long these fair value gaps because the way that you should use fair value gaps on a bigger time frame is number one, recognize the context in which where we are in price. Right, these two fair value gaps here are created after having a big morning move, right? Okay, so where is this big morning move? If I zoom out even more, we've had a pretty bullish move all morning, and now we're starting to reject off of the previous bigger time frame breaker. So we got to keep that in mind as well, right? Now, the way that you should use bigger time frame fair value gaps is if you want to use a 5-minute fair value gap as an entry, there has to be a model and there has to be a reason for us to hold that area. Right now, there's not necessarily enough structure or enough validation for this 5-minute fair value gap to hold. There hasn't been sell side that's been swept. There hasn't been displacement to the upside, right? This is the displacement here, but sell side hasn't been swept. We don't know if the draw is necessarily higher. The way that I use this imbalance is I use it as displacement. I wait for the internal displacement higher to then take that as my entry. So what I basically look for is, let's say this. Let's say I don't have enough structure, right? Because what I would normally want to look for is just recognizing the model. If I have sell side down here, right? And then we ended up coming back down to sell side, and I'm looking at the 5-minute chart and I'm trying to look for a long, I'm not taking a long until I get, something like this, right? And then I take whatever that 5-minute fair value gap is because everything that I've needed to see, the context has now aligned, right? Here, I'm not just longing this 5-minute fair value gap, right? Why am I not just longing this 5-minute fair value gap, right? Why does this fail? Because there's no reason for this to hold. There's no context, right? And most of the time, probably here, sell side or buy side ended up getting taken here, right? So without the context, without knowing where we are in structure, is going to depend on if an imbalance is going to hold or not. Because again, the key is recognizing what the draw on liquidity is. You have to know what the draw on liquidity is first before knowing what imbalances are going to hold and which ones aren't going to hold. And even if you don't know the draw on liquidity, use the bigger time frame, wait for it to hold, and then use it as an internal entry model. So if I have a 15-minute fair value gap here, let's say I don't even know what's to the left of this, but I think the draw is higher. Let's say this, and then we end up coming back down. And then I'm in this 15-minute fair value gap. I'm not going to just blindly long this without context. What I will possibly look for is something like this. Holding, holding, holding. Boom. We get displacement up inside the range. We pull back to this fair value gap, continue to hold. Now I feel a lot more comfortable taking this long than I do just blindly longing the 15-minute because I'm using this as context to then understand what the draw on liquidity is. Because I don't know what the draw on liquidity is right here, but I sure have a better understanding of the draw on liquidity after this move right here. Because again, we have to recognize what's being respected, what's being disrespected. When the 15-minute fair value gap continues to hold and we respect it and get displacement up, then I can look to take an entry, right? So it all depends on context.
That clears it up a lot. The last thing really quick. So let's theoretically say in this model you just drew.
Yeah.
To the left, let's say we have like a 5-minute fair value gap or something else that you hopped into the the 15-minute that you have there, but to the left there's a 5-minute.
Like in
Still,
like in it or below?
Like above. So like if you go to
like here?
Go over a little. Yeah, so well actually no, to the right a little bit. Yeah, right there. So say we have like one of those, right?
Yeah.
That could theoretically still push price down. So would you look for that to be broken first?
A great question. Okay. Great question. Number one, if I have enough conviction in whatever the draw is, I'm not worried about whatever these imbalances is. If you have enough experience and enough conviction with knowing whatever the higher time frame narrative and the bias is, you're not worried about this. If you don't, then that's when I'm waiting for that imbalance. So a lot of the times, if it's a super clear buy model, like let's say like this is what I'm looking at. Like let me draw this out again. Let's say this is a 4-hour time frame, right? Again, same thing as before. But I'm now on a 4-hour, right? A 4-hour time frame. So like I'm just a lot more bullish here. When we come back down to the 4-hour fair value gap, I know that my higher time frame narrative is bullish right now, right? Buy side's resting here. I'm expecting the external draw right now on a bigger time frame to be here. I'm expecting the internal draw to be here, right? So now even zooming in. So now I come into the day and I'm super, super bullish, right? But I'm not just blindly longing. But the most important thing about this example is knowing the higher time frame narrative, right? So there's times when I would look for that fair value gap to get ran through, and there's times when I don't care because I know it's going to get ran through. In this example, when I have a confidence in whatever the higher time frame bias is, and we form, oh, I'm too zoomed in the model. It's going to be all wacky. Oh, it's going to be so wacky. Fuck. But like, oh my God, why is it like that? I'm too zoomed in. But let's say we get displacement, right? If we get displacement and then I long this fair value gap here after a stop right down here, like let's say again, we stop right down here, we get displacement up, and I long this, I am not worried about any fair value gap to the left of us because I'm super confident in the model. I'm very confident in the model. But if I'm not confident in the external draw, then I'm always being more cautious, and I would look to see the 5-minute or the whatever the imbalance is to the left of us get ran through. Again, perfect example of today. The reason that initial buy model didn't work out is because, number one, internal model or the internal stop rate never happened. Where is it? Let me go back to it. The 15-minute. Here, we never had, this was all chop. We had nothing here, right? No displacement, no sort of anything, no really displacement to the upside either on the 15-minute. Came down, continued to hold this 15-minute fair value gap. No imbalance before selling off one more time. Again, notice the 3 drive here as well. 1, 2, 3 before bouncing up. And then that fair value gap gets ran through. This is now the point in time where this is now the best opportunity to possibly look for longs is after this gets ran through, right? Because on a bigger time frame, I'm not super confident on what the bias is. We had this big move down. I could possibly see us continue to sell off, but we have an SMT that's kind of bullish, so I'm really not super positive on that. So for this specific example, if I'm looking to take longs, I feel a lot more comfortable waiting for this imbalance to get ran through and then taking the long before this just randomly taking longs down here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. That answers my question. So that was my biggest controversy so far.
Yeah, and the more experience you have, and the more trust me, the more you see it happen, and the more times like it will work versus it doesn't work, you'll start to develop those conditions, and you'll start to have more experience around it.
Well, I mean, since I started watching your videos, like I think you were like the first guy that simplified it enough, ICT, so I understood it a lot more. So I blew my first Top Sub account, and now I'm up, I think, like 1,300 in the second one.
Nice.
So my risk rewards 1 to 2 and all that, so it's
Love
a lot. It's going a lot better now.
Keep it up, brother.
So
all right, bro.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for coming on, asking the question. All right. Who's next? Thank you, Rob, for coming on. Trent? All right, let's bring Trent on.
Yo, hello.
What's up, brother?
What's up? I got a question on like standard deviation. Like today,
Mm-hmm.
didn't really understand where to use standard deviation today.
Mm-hmm. Just in general? Okay, let's talk about today.
Yeah, just in general.
So, where could we have used standard deviation? So, whenever I'm looking to try to find some sort of projection, I need something that shows me a clear manipulation move, right? So, the reason why standard deviation here is I really couldn't use it because there's no internal manipulation, right? There was really no sort of what I would be looking for a standard deviation is if it was something like this, right? Because then this would be our manipulation move. We had that internal manipulation move. Then I would draw standard deviation like this, right? But we never had that. We just ended up coming down and then had a quick move back up, right? There was no manipulation. It was just a move down. I mean, I guess you could say, actually, again, this wouldn't be accurate, but I kind of want to see what this was. I guess this was our manipulation move here. Where was that 4 lined up? I guess, nah. I wouldn't mark that at all. So But yeah, here there's times when I won't mark standard deviation, right? Because there's no clear manipulation move, and I don't have enough conviction with just drawing it and expecting it to work, right? It needs to be a clear for me. So right here, wouldn't have used it. Here again, looking again. Let's take a look on ES. Again, no manipulation move in the morning. I guess we could see if there was one here. Again, straight up, straight down. Nothing here that I would really mark. Some people like to mark it on internals. So like again, I haven't backtested enough. I would actually really like to get better at using standard deviation on internal models. But like some people would mark, something like this, and then you could. That's actually pretty crazy. Hold on, never mind. Some people mark it like that on whatever the internal manipulation is before having whatever that move is. That's a cool projection actually. And then through here, this would be the manipulation move lower. And then this was what I would mark for bullish.
Okay.
And then again, you can see where we're starting to reject here. Again, notice 2 to 2.5 aligns up perfectly with that buy side level. And then you can see we haven't been able to break through this in the PM session.
So would you normally take it off on the 2 to 2.5
Yes.
every time?
So okay, I am not most of the time my runners are going there. So a lot of the time if I'm in a short, the projection is just giving me extra confluence. I am still taking off my position at buy side and sell side levels based off of the chart alone. But if I have a runner, I will let it go to whatever the 2 to 2.5 is, yeah.
Okay. But like let's say like on that one right there that you just marked, the first one,
Yeah.
would you have a runner go to the 4 or no?
No, 2 to 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, runner goes to 2.5. And the only way my runner's going here too is because most of my contracts are coming off here.
Okay.
Right? At the sell side level. Once sell side's taken, most of my contracts go here. Runner goes 2.25, and then I'm squeezing just a little bit extra. But I don't. Nobody wants this. Again, this is a 5-minute chart. This was fucking an extra hour and a half worth of chop that you don't want to hold your extra runner. Like, there's just no point, right? Just to squeeze out this with my last contract. I don't care. I don't care to catch this. I'm taking what I'm confident in, which is my runner's going into 2 to 2.5.
All right.
Understand?
All right.
Gotcha?
Thanks, man.
Yep. Who's next? Can you explain the difference between internal external liquidity? I have a video on it. Again, it's not complicated at all. Internal is just, again, let's say I'm in a 1 hour time frame here, right? Bank, boom. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. Do do. Okay. My external buy side. This is my external buy side. Again, it's all fractal. When I say external, it all depends on what time frame I'm looking at. This is my external buy side. This is my external sell side. My internal sell side is whatever the internal liquidity of this range. So this is my internal sell side because it's inside of this range. This is my internal buy side because it's inside of the range. Gotcha? Get it? That's it. That's literally all it is. And again, it all depends on where I'm looking. If I zoom in to like just this becomes my external buy side, external sell side. This becomes my internal sell side now swept, right? Again, it all just depends on what you're looking at. It's all fractal. Standard deviation settings. Anybody else want to come on? Ask about backtesting? All right, let's bring you on. You can come on, Owen. Owen Shy. I invited him. You can come on. You should be able to join. There you go. You're muted right now. You gotta unmute. Hold up, let me join on my phone. Hello.
Oh,
What's up?
hello.
What's up, brother?
Can y'all hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm sick as hell right now, so don't make fun of my voice. But I'm just
Very
wondering,
good.
like literally all I do is I'm on Forex Replay and I trade indices. I don't trade futures because I just honestly prefer indices. But I like follow you and I trade your models and I've been getting a lot better recently.
Okay.
But I'm just thinking like what did you do with your back testing that you felt made the biggest change in your journey?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things when I first like started learning ICT and when everybody's like kind of first learning ICT, everybody wants to backtest. The biggest thing that I really did is I didn't really actually use like any fancy replay system just because it actually it wasn't really I didn't really know of it when I first started learning ICT. So the biggest thing that I would do was more forward testing. I did a lot more forward testing than I would back testing. A lot of the times I would wake up, check NQES, and then mark out every single possibility that I think could possibly happen. Like I would mark every buy side level I had. Like when I first started, I was like every buy side level, every sell side level, every fair value gap, and then I would watch the market and I would say, okay, what looks like the market's gravitating towards, what fair value gaps are actually being respected. Okay, let me try to like figure out, like recognize what the model is. Okay, this looks like, the draw on liquidity is sell side, or this looks like we're in a buy model, whatever it is. And there's times that I was right and there's times that I was wrong. But I would journal all of those days and I would say, okay, here's a screenshot of the chart of, me thinking this is a buy model and it didn't end up working. Here's a screenshot of me thinking this was a sell model and it did end up working. And I would then, again, continue to screenshot these, continue to forward test and find these things over and over and over again. And then the consistency of me having confluence or conviction with those things, again, just got better over time because I was focused on trying to recognize it and trying to find it real time. So I did backtest, but the backtesting for me was just going in TradingView and, again, doing like a replay session. What we do in some of the charting sessions, I'll just go back in time and watch price action and see, just tape read from there. But a lot of what I was doing for ICT was just tape reading.
Yeah, I feel like whenever, like this morning, for example, I didn't want to take any trades on indices just because I knew I had like a final. But it is really helpful just to watch and like see what's getting respected and
It is.
disrespected. Yeah, I appreciate you answering that. And I got one more question.
Yeah.
When's that third Paris ball coming out, dude?
We got the fourth one.
Fourth. Yeah, my bad.
I have it done. I just got it again. The fourth one isn't super entertaining. It's not going to be super entertaining for most people because all we're doing, it's literally me in my poster shop buying posters and talking with the owner about the history of like art and the history of a lot of different artists that had like used to do art in Paris, like in the early 1900s, late 1800s, that did like advertisements and stuff. Like it's me like just geeking out and talking about a bunch of Paris art with him. So if you guys are interested in that.
I'll definitely watch that. And just to let you know, that second one where y'all went to the Louvre, that video was so gas. I've watched it like 10 times.
Much love, bro. That means a lot, bro. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll stay in here. Keep preaching us good.
Thank you, bro. Have a good one, brother. All right, we'll do one more person. One more person that wants to come on. Love to hop on for a second. All right, let me get you on, Drew.
Yo, you guys hear me?
What's up, brother?
So man, my biggest thing is I've been trading ICT for probably like a year now, and just joined the Discord over Thanksgiving. I really want like I feel like I'm at a point where I want everything to kind of work out, and I just don't know if I'm like doing enough. So I've been kind of like going back and like I've already watched obviously the 2022 from ICT, and I'm rewatching stuff, and I feel like I understand everything you're saying, and I'm understanding while we're going over stuff in the market, and like I feel like I understand the market while it's moving. I just don't know if I'm just like listening to you. So I feel like my question is more like, if you were in my spot and you're listening, obviously it's easier for me to trade with you live. So like, would you take some days where I would trade with you? Like I'm thinking about maybe I trade with you like 3 days and like I do it on my own.
Absolutely,
So I'm just
absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think, guys, as much as there needs to be a balance. You will never the whole thing with the reason why I created this community is for you guys to come in, get what you need, and then start the journey on your own. Because a lot of people are stuck; they don't know how to get that past that, and that's why where I'm here is to put you past that. I don't expect you guys to be here your whole entire journey. I don't want you to be, because I want you to be able to experience, being self-sufficient on your own. That's our whole goal. And I absolutely, if you are to the point in your career, in your journey, where you feel, and you might not, but if you do like feel a sort of reliance on me, or more of, again, you can also, again, most people, if they have the confidence and they'll like join the lives just to, use me as confluence, they won't take alerts, but if they see a setup and I see the same thing, they just use me as confluence, which is great as well. But absolutely, I highly, highly recommend, if you are at a point, and again, everybody's different, only if you are starting to get to that point. If you are at a point where you want to start building more self-confidence with yourself, absolutely split the week up. Half the days come trade with me, half the days choose to just trade on your own. And I'd say, and I honestly recommend to don't look at the Discord even. Take the first hour of the market and strictly just trade it on your own. Having no outside confluence is going to build true conviction. Real conviction, right? Because there's no other factors that's giving you a bias or giving you a thought in your head except for your own eyes looking at the market. And that is very important, because one of the problems that I had when I first started trading is I would constantly look at Twitter, constantly looking at what other people are trading, being like, okay, this guy's trading this, let me go check it out. That might give me some opportunity. Like, I was desperate to try to find opportunity, and I would use other people, but in turn, I would never end up actually building confidence with my model. So absolutely, use me as confluence, use me as education, but also take the time to do it and trade on your own to build real conviction.
Yeah, I definitely feel like when I'm trading, like I have such a harder time clicking the button, and then like obviously like when I'm on live with you, and then like I'm seeing the same thing, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna enter here, then I'm like, fuck yeah, like I'm gonna enter here too. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Where like today I took the one long, and then that worked out, and then I just didn't like. I definitely want to I want to take stuff that's only that I feel like I'm like I see too, like that I'm seeing too, like that,
Yeah.
not just because like I don't
And
have
you
15
should.
second charts.
Exactly. And you should.
Yeah.
And you should.
Yeah.
Because that's going to build, again, never take a trade from me if you don't understand or have confluence with that trade. Never, right? Because all that means is you're just taking a signal, and you don't get anything from taking a signal. All you do from taking a signal is you just have the thought in your head that I have the potential of making money. You're not like actually gaining anything from that, right? You're not gaining confidence. You're not gaining anything or experience, because it wasn't your idea, right? When you start to see the same things as me, and again, the people who have come to this community and they start to learn the same concepts, and we talk about the same models, we've trained many of our members to see the same things. And when we do get a good setup, a lot of the times everybody is taking that same setup. And that's the good thing about being on live with me, is most people will see that setup and then use me as confluence. And then most of the times those wins and those trades are a higher percent win rate than it would be if it was, just an alert I took or something that you think. When everybody's on the same page is when it's the best setups.
Yeah, I'm a definitely start, because I've been trying to like I won't look at your like when you send your morning stuff out, like I'll make like if I'm doing something else, I'll make sure that I do my own analysis beforehand just to see if I'm like on the same page, because I feel like I can like
Yeah,
it's been
that's
great
great.
being in here, but I feel like I can like get trapped and
Yeah.
just like kind of cruising through
Absolutely.
everything and relying on. So like yeah, that's kind of my biggest.
Yeah, keep doing that.
makes
Highly
sense.
recommend. Yeah, keep doing that for sure. Take the time. Take
Alright.
the time to focus on building it with yourself too.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, much love, brother.
All right.
Have a good rest of your night, bro. All right. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. This was a great session. Again, if you guys do you guys enjoy it and enjoyed bringing people on and kind of just talking about some stuff like that too? And I love it. I love talking with you guys too. Yeah, I will definitely do this more often. I'm definitely down to do this more often and bringing people on. Heading to Dreamland, probably me soon. I'm getting pretty tired too. Oh yeah, let's do a quick outlook of tomorrow real quick. I'm honestly a little bit more bearish going into tomorrow, but I'm looking to see this buy side level get swept. One thing that I would like to see is we do have that 4-hour order block. Possibly look to come up, sweep one last time on the manipulation move, and then possibly see something like this. If we do end up running through this, I would expect to go back towards buy side. But a lot of my bias tomorrow is going to end up being formed by the internal model, so we'll see what happens from the overnight session. Crazy how it's more people in the live trading versus the trading session. It's always, again, people don't want to learn. They want to trade. They don't want to put in the work. I enjoy the charting sessions more than I do the trading sessions, because in the charting sessions is when we actually are growing. It's just in a trade. Always. I don't imagine how many times I see that message. I do have a video on daily bias, yes, on my YouTube. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. Get some rest. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Peace out, guys.